So in this section, we are really looking at share-based compensation. We'll talk about earnings per share later, but this is chapter 19 in your Spiceland book. So that is a nice area to look at. It's going to give you a simple review of this. But you know, I'm the codification guy, right? So we want to make sure we're always looking at the codification, make this a little bigger so it's not difficult to see. And so we're dealing with compensation, right? So what section is? Well, it's clearly not an asset. There are some liability elements to it, but when we think about compensation, it's an expense, right? So whereas when we're dealing with derivatives, that was in broad transactions, under expense, we're looking at compensation. And there's multiple different layers of compensation here. And some of the stuff you've already looked at, right? General compensation, non-retirement post-employment benefits. You learned that in a previous class. Retirement benefits, both defined benefit plans and defined contribution plans. Again, you learned that and got a lot of exposure in your previous class. This one, we're in ASC 718. And we're going to look at the overall, we're going to look at section 10, section 20, section 30, and section 50. Employee stock ownership plans, those are really dealing with other elements that are beyond this particular scope. You can always take a look in there and see how you move your ownership from whoever currently owns the company to employees now owning the company. So we think about that as an employee buyout of the company, whether it's leveraged or non-leveraged. And so that's really dealing with broader transactional issues as far as moving the company from public ownership to employee ownership. And so there's some accounting that relates around that. But what we're talking about is the employees are not taking over the company. What we're talking about here is providing compensation to our employees through giving them shares, whether that is restricted shares or whether it's giving them options to purchase shares in the future. So this is where we're going to be. And the first thing we want to look at is, actually, I want to look at 50 employee share purchase plans. That's really what I want to focus on because we're trying to figure out whether or not we are dealing with compensatory plans or non-compensatory plans. Right? That's what we're trying to think about here. And so the first thing we want to do is we want to look to the recognition criterion to see whether or not this employee stock purchase plan is compensatory, and what are the things that we have to do to determine whether or not it's actually compensation expense, or is it just merely a facilitation plan to allow employees to buy the shares without having to go to a broker to buy the shares and pay broker fees. And if they're buying it from a broker, they're buying it in the secondary market. With the employee stock purchase plan, we've issued an S8. We are issuing brand new shares to the employees. And the employees, we're providing them with a service, right? We're providing them with a little bit of an incentive that they can enjoy and buy the shares without a broker fee, and they could potentially even buy it at a slight discount to what the market price is when we go out with the employee stock purchase plan. So we want to take a look at the recognition criterion. So we're going into 718, 50-25. And these are the items, right? 25-1. We're trying to determine whether or not the plan is non-compensatory. So these three things have to be in place in order for it to be non-compensatory. So you take a look at these items. So one of the things that has to happen is substantially all of the employees that are, depending on what is the limit, maybe there's part-time employees that don't get to be part of the plan, but substantially all the employees have to be able to participate on an equitable basis. This isn't for just the CEOs and the CFOs. This is all the employees. If it's not for all the employees, then it becomes a compensatory plan, and we'll have to recognize compensation expense. If all the employees get to participate on an equitable basis, then it's non-compensatory. We're basically just facilitating issuing shares. The other things we've got to do is we've got to start thinking about, well, what kind of a discount am I giving them? Right? What kind of a discount am I giving them? So if we think about if I had to go out and issue new shares, right? Because remember, the employees are buying the shares at whatever the market price is. So if I was going to go out and issue brand new shares, I would likely have to go to an underwriter. And the underwriter would charge me to issue the shares. I'd probably have to hire some accountants, I'd have lawyers, right? There's going to be transaction costs associated with this. And those transaction costs, they're allowing for you to say, well, your transaction costs should be no more than 5% of, if we look at the market price, take out 5%, those would be the transaction costs that you would have incurred had you issued these shares to the general public. But since you're issuing to your employees, we'll let you issue them to your employees at a little bit of a 5% haircut. Right? The employees go, wow, I'm buying these shares. It's $100 a share, but I get to buy it for $95. I already have a gain. And that's okay. And it's not compensation expense. And it's not compensation income for the employee either. Because the employee is just buying the shares, and we don't have compensation expense, they don't have compensation income for that 5%. Until they sell it. And then when they sell it, their basis is the $95, and now they're going to have a capital gain, and you'll learn about this in your tax class. Now they're going to have a capital gain equal to whatever they sold it for, less than $95 per share. That's when they have to recognize income on their tax return. But here, if it's non-compensated, we can issue these shares. It's not going to affect our bottom line. It's non-compensation expense. So everybody's happy. If you have a purchase discount that is greater than this 5%, you have to justify it. There has to be further justification. Why is it that your costs to issue are going to be that much higher? And the last piece is, once we come up with the plan, employees don't have a lot of time, because we're saying you get to buy it at this market price. And you can have a shelf registration on the S8 and come out every so often with a new tranche or a new segment of the plan. But once you come up with the plan, the employees have to enroll quickly, right? They can't wait. Right? They should enroll quickly after the purchase price has been fixed, right? So once the purchase price is fixed, hey, employees, you get to buy it for $95. You get 31 days to choose. You can't wait for the stock to go way up and go, wait 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. Oh, now I'm gonna choose. No, it has to be very quickly. And they're very specific on this, right? This is not one of those, use your judgment. No, not more than a month. Not more than a month. In this case, 31 days. They're using a 31-day month as a month. So if all of these things are here, then this is a non-compensatory plan. If the discount was 15%, that discount becomes compensation expense. That discount becomes compensation expense.